Good evening, everybody. We'd like to welcome you to our broadcast of Another Healing Journey. This is our support group for the loved ones of the recently arrested and the incarcerated. We're so glad to be able to sit in front of you tonight because you know what? We have some special guests with us tonight. But before we introduce them, Lee, welcome.
Thank you, Lynn. And I'd just like to say hello to all of our Facebook and YouTube audience. Thank you for joining us tonight. We greet you tonight, as Lynn said, from the healing journey and from the learning journey and from OLL. That's our lessons learned. And we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Ourlessonslearned.org is our website. Please visit our website for more information. We have some exciting events coming, and we support you with by giving you information, education, mental health counseling, and directions. And we ask that you support us to visit our website. You can make a tax deductible donation there, monetary donation. Or we'd like to ask that you come out and just support us with our community events. Welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Lee. It's so good to be on, and we're just welcoming everybody. We know that we did have some issues with our streaming on our Facebook, but don't forget, we are also on the YouTube. If you're having a problem reaching us, we're on the YouTube. Facebook has changed some channels where we're having to do things a little bit different. So if you go to YouTube, just put in the Learning Journey Counseling Support Group or the Learning Journey Support Group, and it'll come right up. So again, we apologize if there is a problem with our streaming this evening. We are trying to fix it, and if it is a problem, then you know what? We will make sure that we upload this video. But anyway, without further delay, we are so excited to have with us this evening Miss Wanda Perkins and Miss Nancy Charles from Florida Restorative Justice Practices. And we want to make sure that you're educated on restorative justice practices. It is so important that you know about it in the light of everything that goes on. You never know when it's going to be at your front door, when you're going to have some trauma and trials, as Lee and I went through. And we knew nothing about restorative practices. And we want them to just talk about, how it can help you and what age group it's for. And they're knowledgeable about this. So welcome, ladies. We are so glad to help you. And again, we support you 100% with the restorative practices. And I know Florida is, having getting more and more educated on this. So again, welcome.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad. So Wanda and Nancy, tell us more about restorative practices and what happens, with that.
Okay, I'll begin. So, restorative practices is a process used to help resolve conflict when the harm has occurred. In the school system, instead of automatically giving consequences to the students who have a conflict are brought together to discuss the issue. But also, restorative practice is not just about solving conflict. It's also about building relationships, because when you have relationships already built in, with your building community and having good relationships with students, it's easy to have call in the people that are involved in a conflict to get together and talk about the problems, because they would have already been used to doing restorative practices and having circles, which is what the foundation of restorative practice is, it getting together in a circle and talking about an issue. That, in a nutshell, that's what it is. Okay. But it's a very long practice that has really been applied since the beginning of time. Indigenous peoples use circles to get together and talk about issues and bring the community together to resolve conflict. So it's nothing really new, but in the school system, it's been more prevalent in the school system, like starting 1990s. And you
Wow.
see a resurgence of it, yeah, in the last 10 years, because schools are looking for an alternative to just suspending students and out of school suspension and trying to keep kids in school and preventing problems. So there's been that resurgence and interest in restorative practices since really about the last 10 years, but it's been around since the 1990s in schools.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
that's awesome. So there is no age limit then. It can help adults as well as children.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Even myself, restorative practice it gives you a moment to pause on what the problem is, because it's important that we really all live in harmony. Everyone's looking for peace in their lives, and sometimes problems could be, we all know there's miscommunication and sometimes misunderstanding, and a lot of times we all also bring mental health issues that can really destroy our relationships with others. And restorative practices can help us really look at these things and put all these things in consideration before conflict gets blown out of proportion.
Okay.
Yes. And as Nancy was sharing, that it's not just about conflict, it is about building relationships. Um, I had the opportunity to I had the opportunity to facilitate circles when I worked with students, parents, and teachers. So, in some instances, we would have students who may have just been friends and their friendship was somehow altered by others, and we know how that happens. And they would come and say, I would like to talk to my friend. She seems to be upset with me, and I don't understand why. And so those are instances when I could bring them in. They weren't in conflict. There was, no anger or anything at each other. They just wanted to rebuild and reconnect. And so I would have them in and have a circle talk with them. The other thing I would do is I brought several teachers on board, um, and they were trained in restorative practices. And what some of the teachers would do is before they even started class, whether it was math or English, they would have the kids in a circle, and they would actually
Mm.
start a circle process with those students in order to build relationships with the student to teacher, and also the students to their classmates.
Yeah.
In these instances, the teacher could find out once they went around, because what they do is they have a talking piece, whether that's a pencil or a pen or whatever that talking piece is. And with that talking piece, it has to be respected. The person who holds the talking piece is the person who's sharing their voice. And so there is a series of questions, and that talking piece goes around the room, and each student has the opportunity to share whatever it was that question was that the teacher asked at that point. And then it was building relationships. The teacher then understood if Johnny was sitting there, I don't want to, I don't feel like it, and they're not forced to, but that allowed the teacher to tap into that student and say, well, maybe something's not right with Johnny today. Maybe when I finish with the circle, I'll need to check in with Johnny. It allowed that teacher then to see if Johnny was okay. And if not, then she could reach out to the guidance counselor or someone that he felt comfortable talking to, and allowed that student to talk to that person. So you could see then she was building trust with the student. So building relationships is so very important. Um, and then when you do have students who may be in conflict or there was some harm, when you do have that, then it gets a little bit easier for you to talk to, or it gets much easier for the students to share with you that they have classmates who are having some issues and need a circle, need to have restorative practices. So it was a great opportunity to work with students, parents, and teachers.
And also, when you build that relationship with students, if there's something's broken in the school, there's a problem, even if their friends are having problems, once you start building that culture of trust and relationship, you are made aware of any situation that's happening that can maybe cause kids to have a fight. If some intervention is not by using restorative practices, because we're all hardwired to be in relationships. Well, as human beings, we're all hardwired to have relationships, and it takes us back to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Mhm.
The teachers, our goal is to help our students to become the best that they can be to actualize their goals. And then, but they cannot do that until the basic needs are met. And right there, relationship is right in the middle. Uh, the bottom, of course, as you know, Maslow's hierarchy, you have the physiological needs.
Yes.
Yes, you remember. Yeah, you remember that.
Yeah.
The hunger, water,
Safety, security. Yes.
and safety and security, and the need to belong. And so that relationship building is really core to help us succeed and to feel safe.
Yes, yes. On some occasions, there were community situations where there were parents of our students who were having conflict. So, if the parent is having conflict in the neighborhood, then those students bring those um, problems to school. They bring those issues to school. And so I found that if the parents are in conflict, then their children are in conflict, then they come to school with the conflict. And sometimes it could get larger than just those two students, because why? Each one of those students have friends. So then
Mm.
it becomes this group of friends against this group of friends. And I've had at one point 12 female students meeting with them in a circle to resolve what the
Wow.
situations were at that time. Um, but the main piece of that was I was able to call the parents and get them on board to come and meet with me to have a circle with the parents.
Right.
Okay.
And then sometimes there were challenges for a language barrier sometimes for me. Um, but I had people on board at the school. That's another building relationship with your staff piece.
Mhm.
So I had people on board at the school who spoke Spanish. And in one instance, I had to meet with those parents at 6 o'clock in the evening when they got off work. It was to me fulfilling because I wanted to help those parents get on a good page with each other so that their students would also be on a good page with each other when they came to school. Um, in in at least two of those that I did, the parents were exchanging phone numbers. They were able to talk. I made sure everybody's voice was heard. Um, and they were able to talk together and exchange phone numbers. And there were no problems for those students after that point because I was able to pull the parents in. So it's very important to be able to tap into community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Once you get a relationship with people in the community, then they are on the page and you're on the page together, and you can work together if there are conflicts to help resolve those so that everybody can live at peace and the harm goes away. Of course, we don't ever forget the harm, but we want to make sure that those students are able to come to school, learn, be happy, and not be worried about conflict.
Gotcha. It's so important what you guys were talking about. And the main thing that, Nancy, you talked about the hierarchy of needs, the safety and security, and all of those things are important. But one thing I heard that just struck with me, and it's about relationship building. You're building relationship with the community, you're building relationship with the parents, you're building trust. All of those things are essential in change. And, it's a change agent what you're doing. You're changing hearts, you're changing minds, you're changing behaviors with this practice. When they have to go sit down in the jail or the prison, what are they changing? What are they changing? They're changing from their street clothes into a correctional uniform. There's
Absolutely.
no change that really is defining their behavior change immediately. This way, you can avoid that bridge a relationship. Okay. And
Mhm.
it's so important. But you mentioned something that I want to talk about. What again is the importance of that circle? Why can't you do it in a quad? What is the importance of the circle?
But the circle is a bond, and also everybody see each other and can see each other's eyes. You can see each other's expressions, body language, and we're all exposed in the circle, and no one's hidden. There's nothing in the middle of the circle. You might have something on the floor. Some people do that, but everybody can see each other, and that's the importance of having that circle there, and creates a bond at all equal. Well,
Okay.
in the circle, everybody has equal space, of equal visual of each other, and yeah, that the bond even tighter. Well, that's what you're
I,
trying to a bond.
I like that because it's non-intimidating. It's
Absolutely.
non-intimidating.
Mhm.
I went
Yes,
I went somewhere and I saw a setup, and it was so intimidating because if you sit that person like they're in front of a court or in front of a judge, that can be intimidating.
yes,
So I like the circle, as you said, there is the eye contact. I see you, you see me.
yes.
The parents are there as well, or the loved ones, or the injured, are there. And you're working things out for
Mhm.
everybody's good. So you have a win-win, and I like that. That
Yes,
is so important.
and you ask certain questions too to make the individuals really think about their actions. You ask everybody what happened. You go one person at a time, and everybody get a chance to express themselves. Gets a chance to do that, and you ask them, who do you think was impacted by this? And
Mhm.
especially our students, our children, they don't realize everyone that's impacted. It's not just you and the person you're having a with in school. It's not just the other student, but then as you think about it, like, well, yeah, sometimes you may have to prompt them a little bit. How about your parents? Were they impacted?
Mhm.
And then to think about it and realize that, yeah, they had to leave work, not
Mhm.
go to work, to come here and take the situation. How about the fact that maybe they have a baby
Yes.
brother or sister, that they were impacted by this? And so it really makes them think about not just about them. We're all in a village. Everything you do affects other people. Uh,
Mhm.
and so that's something to keep in mind. It really has them reflect as well. And how can you do better? And then you ask them, what could you do differently? So
Right.
Exactly.
yeah, and so that's another thing that they sit down and think about, and maybe in the future, it's part of social emotional learning, which we're all talking about in schools and everywhere these days. Thinking about and assessing your own behavior,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
and also some people sometimes think we started there are no consequences. No, there is a consequence. There are consequences, but we get to talk it out and reflect on it and the impact of it all. But the conversation needs to happen.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful, Nancy. It's,
Absolutely.
you just, when you think about the impact of the community on the individual, a lot of times that, you're coming from some of these communities, that's an impact that changes that behavior and will make some children or some adults do some of the things they do. So community has a big impact on behavior.
Absolutely.
So this way, you're building a community. And most times, when you take that party out of that community and you are giving them, you're reinventing them differently, they will not go back to some of those communities and do the same thing. So, see, you're
Absolutely.
looking at a healing as well as a total change. There are several stages of change, and they get a chance to think about the change. I'm working on this. I'm going to change my behavior all the way around. So that is very important and impactful.
And then when you speak of impact, when I would speak to the students about who was impacted, I would use the scenario of the old scenario of taking a pebble and throwing it in the water to see the ripples and how far out those ripples go before they actually come to a stop. Maybe when they get to the bank, but then it bounces back off and the ripple still continues. So I would use that with the students. And when I ask them who was impacted, and we even talk about how did it impact your teacher? You are here in the office with me. We are here discussing. So what is everyone else doing in the classroom? What is your teacher doing? So your teacher has to continue with the lesson. So when you go back, your teacher has to then find time to catch you up on the lesson. So I would talk to them about how widespread the impact could be while we were in circle and discussing. So very, very effective way to help
Yes.
children speak, and even adults. I had teachers
Mhm.
who would come to me and say, I'm really having some trouble teaching today because this particular student is acting out. My first thing to them, because I believe in and I'm an advocate of restorative circles and restorative practices, my first thing to ask them is, when do you have time to meet with the students so we can have a circle?
Mhm.
Are you willing to give up your planning time to come in and meet with the student? And I would also call the parent and have the parent on speaker. And I would have that circle with the parent on speaker, the student, and myself and the teacher. And I would allow those same questions that Nancy is talking about. I asked those same questions. And so that allowed that student, can you imagine how powerful that was? That
Yes.
student was allowed to share how he or she feels in the classroom.
Yeah.
So that it was powerful because of the fact that going back into that classroom, there was an entirely different feel.
Yes. Yes. Let
Okay.
me
So it worked. It really worked. Those circles and relationships that I built with teachers, students, and parents.
Let me add to well, and I
uh,
remember I was a trainer for my school district,
uh-huh.
related to my department, and I was a manager, and one of the schools, and we had buy-in. Of course, you need buy-in to implement any of these new ways of thinking. And
Mhm.
I happened to uh, assist Wanda in one of the circles, and she continued with those two young ladies. What was interesting, Wanda, if you remember, one of them was saying that the mother was having some problem, and that the mother circle.
Yes, she said, my parents need this circle. That's
Wow.
the student telling me that
I
her
love
parents needed a circle. So guess what? Being in a circle with that student, being in a circle, she knew the process.
Yes, yes.
She knew the process. And I spoke to the parent, and the parent did say that she wanted to do that at the dinner table. She wanted to have a
wonderful.
circle at the dinner table.
So, we're teaching them skills. We're giving them skills, life skills, really, on how to get along with others, resolve conflict. We'll have conflict with other people,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
disagreements, and misunderstandings. And right now, young lady knows how to do that, how to solve those things by talking about it.
Absolutely.
I think if the 5 questions we do ask is what happened, what were you thinking at the time? Give them a chance to reflect. What have you thought about since, in case they've had a change of mind because of the outcomes, and who has been affected, as I said earlier, by the choices made, and what you need to do to make it right. But the thing is, you have to make sense. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, on them now. Onus is on them to make amends. What would you do to make this better? Especially the person who caused the harm. And how can you fix this? And then let them think about you can be involved, and you have power to fix things and make things better.
Have you seen, you mentioned reflective thinking, and that is something that I use all the time being in mental health, reflective thinking. But wanted to ask something, and I know Lee has a lot of questions. Is it easier with adults or with the children? And I know it differs because we think different as adults, right, Lee? So, what do you find the
Absolutely.
easier change, the behavior change? Is it, and there are different behaviors that adults have than children have. So, how do you assess the difference between the children and the adults and the change principle?
Hmm.
Who changes? Which one is more difficult? The adults that grasp it fast, or the children who are, you know, maybe defiant and don't want to do what you say? What would you, with restorative practices?
I would say it's kind of equal. I'm not a psychologist or mental health person. I was trained in the process, but from what I experience, I can see that it's about equal because everybody has experiences and bring different things to the table. I haven't seen any real big them. Sometimes the children are more open,
Okay.
and sometimes the adults because of their experience and their knowledge. And so it really depends. I can't I
Yeah, it
couldn't
all
say.
depends.
Yeah, I really couldn't say that the adults are better or children are better. They're both. Yeah, you have to buy into thinking that this is a good thing to do, and I want to resolve this. If you want to resolve it, you have to buy into the fact that you want to talk it out and resolve this. You have to
Mhm.
come with a mindset because the practice doesn't let yourself being forced to do anything. You have to volunteer and want to do it. And yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah.
From my experience,
Pre-conference, like Nancy said, you normally have a pre-conference with the parties, the person who
Hmm.
did the harm and the person who was harmed, and they have to agree. You let them know what this process is about,
yes,
and you let them know this is how it works, and then they have to agree to want to participate.
yes,
Um, in
yes,
my situations, I feel that the parents, there were two sides to things.
Hmm.
They really wanted to participate because they wanted their children to be at ease at school.
Hmm.
yes,
Hmm.
Okay. So that was one thing. And then the second thing is they wanted really to participate because we're talking about neighbors next door.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm going to call the police on you. I'm going to call the police on you. Those kinds of things are going on. And that's community. Then you have the other people watching.
Hmm.
Everybody is impacted in some way.
Yes.
So, it's a situation where it's twofold. If especially when they have children in school, the adults really want to get whatever the situation is resolved. They want to, if they had a relationship, they want to rebuild it.
Wow.
And so they'll rebuild those relationships because they've had a chance to hear each other. They don't hear each other when they're yelling and
Mm,
screaming at each other
mm,
across the yard. They don't want to hear anything. And there's nobody to facilitate. There's nobody there to facilitate what's going on. And so I think they open and they're welcoming people to be able to help them through whatever the conflict may be.
yeah.
Uh,
Especially at the school system, right? When
mhm, mhm.
adults are more open, of course, because they
Right.
want to go to school and get about their child.
Mhm.
it's
And what
interesting.
again, building that relationship. So, and then it comes back, that third layer is I'm building relationships with them. So
Hmm.
now they trust me
Yeah,
to know that I'm going to make sure that their children are okay at school.
Hmm. Hmm.
and that's what we as parents we all want that. We feel
Yes.
that
Mhm.
that
Yes.
our go to your school and you're in charge and what you're doing, and you're keeping them safe. And yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's important. Leah, I know you have plenty of questions here.
I don't have plenty, but I am just learning so much about restorative. And when I think in terms
Mhm.
of arrest and incarceration, I see this as
Mhm.
being proactive in causing some of that not to happen. So I know the numbers are reduced by doing what you ladies are doing within your system. So I applaud you and I thank you for it. And even with what you're doing in your system, taking that out in the community, and just like the young lady said that took it, said, hey, my parents need this, took it into the home. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could all work out some of our situations in the home by sitting in a circle and
Right.
let's talk about it, let's resolve it,
Right.
let's restore what we had before that we don't have now, that's breaking down the family, that's breaking down the community, that's breaking down the school. Thank you, ladies. I love it. I'm learning.
It, it is.
I will
It's
even
it's just
become
a
better.
powerful
I'm
tool.
always writing other
Yes.
episodes for this.
It
Mm-hmm.
is such a powerful
Yeah.
tool, but the key is a facilitator. I am
Right.
a
Yes.
mediator, dispute resolution for Orange County. And, sometimes they get in there and do like this, but it's getting them to come to an agreement. It's getting them to see
Hmm.
both sides. How can we
Right.
solve without it going before
Yeah.
the judge?
Excellent.
How
Right.
can we do this?
Hmm.
And you know what? If you can settle and both parties agree, you have just defeated, going before the judge, possibly doing this and possibly doing that. So these are the things that are so important. But the key is that facilitator
That's right.
that can facilitate
Yes.
that. So Nancy and Wanda, you two are valuable. When you're talking about Wanda, how many times you facilitated things and you got a win-win for both, but you also built a relationship. You built the trust. And
Right.
that is what is important. So with adults, it can be a little
Mm.
more combustible, I think, at times. I mean, we get older, but with the children, it's combustible too, because they want to fight their way out, the
Hmm.
fight, flight,
Yeah.
freeze mode, but this is so powerful. And that's why we like to work
Hmm.
along with restorative practices and whatever we can do to, show people, to help educate them and inform them on the practices, because most people don't know. And you all are a national organization
Yes. Yeah.
in
Well,
every state.
Yeah.
yes. Wanda and I are with the Florida Restorative Justice Association. And of course, there's a national one, of course,
Yeah.
out of California, and international, actually. And
Mhm.
many
Oh,
of the
Wow.
members internationally to talk. And when they have a conference, people come from all over the world. But it's about,
Right.
and there's conflict everywhere,
yes, it
and
is.
The
different.
last,
That's right.
the last conference last year, there were 1,700 people there from, I think, all of the countries except for maybe three.
Right.
So they come in from everywhere because some people did not, they're there to learn about restorative practice because they want to initiate that whole process
Hmm.
wherever they came from or wherever they
Hmm.
live. They want to make
Hmm.
sure that they use the process to help people in their countries.
Right.
Um,
Wonderful.
we're also Florida Restorative Justice, as she's saying. We're having a webinar
Hmm.
um, June
13th.
June 13th, Thursday, June 13th, and there will be some more information coming out. It is an education
Great.
webinar about restorative
Mhm.
practices. So, and then Nancy will be presenting also.
All
Uh,
right, Nancy. Yes.
so it's going to be an awesome, just people have to look for it. We'll have it posted on our website, Florida Restorative Justice Association website. And of course, all of us have some type of social media pages that we'll be posting that information on for anyone who is interested to participate in the webinar.
That's excellent. And Wanda, if you
Hmm.
don't mind, we'd like to post it on our support group, because you
Okay.
never know someone who's going through. So we would like to post that information on our support group, and whatever information that you think would be would be good for our support group, please, because as I said, we educate and inform and support,
Right.
and that's the whole thing, is the education piece
Mhm.
around it. Our people fail for a lack of knowledge. We
Right.
perish, so we have to get that knowledge in us, so if something happens, hey, call Florida Restorative Justice.
Mhm.
And
Right.
that is
Yeah.
important, very important to us. So you ladies have just been a wealth of knowledge. And also Michael was on and he talked about how he got involved. And he is the
Right.
Florida Restorative president
President. Hmm.
for Florida region. And it's just so, nobody knows until they've been through it. So to hear him
That's
talk
right.
about actually having his son go through it, and his son got 20 years, and but how restorative practices came and changed his life, and also
Hmm.
changed the parents' lives,
Right.
because it is just a powerful tool. And we would love to have you back again. Lee, do you have any more questions?
Well, not a question, but just I guess a point or direction in reference to that, because I know that they bring out that they do within the circle or the
Mhm.
atmosphere that they're doing this restorative is, and they do let them know that there was some harm done and there
Hmm.
are some
Mhm.
consequences for that. So by
Right.
doing their restorative, it sort of lessens the hurt involved there, so that the hurt won't get any worse or bigger than what it already has been. So I like that
Absolutely.
they do let them know that something bad, so to speak, happened. We don't want it to get any worse, so we're going to resolve it at this issue, but we're going to all know
Right.
what's happening here, so that we can get on the same page.
Right. And
And
the
so
person
I like
that
that.
got,
Again, lady.
yeah, that one of the beauties about of it is that the person that was actually hurt from the harm, they got a voice. They get to speak about
Yeah.
how they feel about.
Hmm.
A lot of times the person who caused the harm goes out and gets punished and it's not discussed again. But when the person who was harmed gets to speak, at least they get to have a voice in the matter, speak out about the situation to the offender or the person who harmed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's so powerful.
And
I
every
just want to add that Nancy was the person who trained me for restorative practices
Oh, wonderful.
some years and years ago. So we've been connected for a long time now. Um,
oh yeah, that's how we became
just
friends.
just
Because
amazing training. She is like really um, thorough and makes sure that you understand the process. And then at that point, I just automatically knew that this is what I wanted to make sure that I did for the people, for the students, for the teachers, for the parents. And so it became a big passion for me because I know it works.
it was wonderful having Wanda there who understood the process. It's not everybody, not everyone's gonna get it at the same. Some people it takes a while to understand the process, and instead of just reacting to
Hmm.
a situation and to taking that pause to really think about it and reflect and going through it, because it can take 5 minutes or it can take an hour. Um,
Hmm.
so you have to take the time to think about that. You can't rush the process, but so you have to remember that and build in for it. And that sometimes in the school system or in your situation, everybody wants to rush everything. Everybody's busy, but to get a long effect and better
Right.
outcome, you have to address the needs of the situation.
Hmm.
But
We have,
yeah,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I make sure
No, go ahead.
our audience understands that many school systems, almost well, many have restorative practice trainings at in their school in their schools, so they can request to have that happen at their school if they want. They want to have a conflict. They can request, and I recommend that.
That's wonderful. I have some questions for you from our audience.
Great.
More schools need to incorporate and implement as a proactive source in behavior modification. And this comes from an educator. And, it's also good for the teachers because, teachers and different personalities, they
Yes,
can be, you know, it's effective if the principal knows how to apply it properly. So
Mhm.
teaching the principals is one thing. You
First.
know, your behavioral
Mhm.
specialists is another, your deans. Do they
Right.
know how to apply it properly? Because it's a useful tool.
Right.
When we,
And that was my job. I was administrative dean.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that I was in the capacity
Okay.
to have to issue disciplinary consequences,
Yes.
but I also was trained to know how to help these students get past the harm, and also whatever their consequences may be, once they finish with the circle and able to talk it out and held accountability for their actions, then whatever their consequences were, they were able to accept that. The
yes,
parents at that point understood.
yes,
So it really helped them because they then at that point say, okay, I know I have to be accountable for. Yes,
Mhm.
ma'am, I did do
Mhm.
this. Or, so and
yes,
the like I said, it goes right back to building those relationships.
yeah, and they
But
owned it.
yes, it is
It's
it's an amazing,
powerful.
it's an amazing process. It's a powerful process.
And the way
I,
we get it, I'm sorry, the way
no.
we began in my district is we first trained the principals, as you mentioned, the
Mhm.
assistant, all the administrators were trained and learned about this. And then they sent their teams, the first responders to a situation, which will be like a Wanda person, a
Mhm.
Wanda, the school suspension folks. And we have in-school suspensions as well, called PASS, positive alternative school suspension, where the student will go and be in the school in a room, and they would conduct circles about what they did and talk about it. Um, so yeah, so all those people from the top down were trained, and then
Wow.
teachers, of course, through it can also be used in
Wonderful.
academic situation, yeah, to do a lesson.
Hmm.
That would be wonderful. I
Mm.
also see that
Mhm.
another educator put in here, the circle is powerful. This is so good. So
Hmm.
there's something that is just riveting people about that circle, that eye contact, sitting across from,
Mhm.
sitting next to. And at your conference that I went to, we talked about that and we sat in a circle and it
Hmm.
was powerful. I see you, I hear you. And that is so powerful. And I gotta say this. I want you all to know that at our lessons learned, we are so grateful. Wanda is one of our board members. So, contact us if you have questions about Florida restorative justice. You can see how we want to work with them because it's a powerful tool. We don't want the incarceration to take place if it
Yes,
doesn't have to. We would like it to be
that's
worked
right.
out humanistically and save that. So that is one of the things that we're just so glad. And Nancy, you have been supportive of our lessons learned, and we thank you. These are the community
Thank you,
partnerships
Nancy.
that we need. The community is better when we can all work together and support one another.
That's
So
right.
those are the things. And it says, another educator, are there any classes you can take given by Florida Restorative Justice?
I, I do trainings myself, and I'll be doing
Okay.
the summer. So with Florida Restorative Justice is studying them as well. I'll
Okay.
them with them or without them, but that was what I did, trainings, and I loved doing the and then you can see the shift in people. They
Yeah.
look and all everything practice. You can see the shift in them. That I was sold because I saw Michael, your last guest,
Yes. Yeah.
and I don't know if your audience understand too that attorneys in law school, that one
Mhm.
of the classes is restorative justice.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if that you know that, but so the process is used. But yes, definitely, I also conduct trainings, and I would love to do a training for anyone. That it's just really a lot of fun.
I would love that. I would love to get a
Mhm.
group together. Wanda, we can
Mhm.
get a group together and have Nancy facilitate. But Wanda, you both can co-facilitate. That would be great.
Yes, absolutely.
Teaching and helping people about restorative practices. That is wonderful. So the other person wants to know, your training, is it in person or virtual?
There is a virtual training. I've done it virtually. It's not the same thing. I would prefer to do it in person, and
Okay.
maybe part of it virtually and part of it, um, face to face. But there has to be a
Mm-hmm.
time when we get to practice during the circles, because he how you do the circles to build that trust so that the students and or the person involved feel okay to open up, and so it's really important to circle carefully. So that part would be in person, and but the whole be in the background of restorative practices, part of it can also be done online. Of course, pre-COVID, it was face to face. It was a 2-day training face to face,
2 day. Okay.
right? And I've done it for other districts. I presented in some other districts, and the top 5 districts in Florida. I don't want to say who they are, but that's for the 3 of them, actually, 3 of the top 5. Um, one of them was online because of COVID. Well, that was good. There were a lot of people that were really interested. They had a change of heart once they learned more about restorative. So either way, I can design it both ways.
That is wonderful. It's so good. I like how you do that. And, if you can design it virtual, I'm sure that, a lot of people will, opt to take that may not be in Florida, but, that may watch our support group and want to, do that and have that certification or that knowledge.
Absolutely, yes, I can do it. I mean, I do
Mm-hmm.
have one training on.
Okay. That sounds good. Any questions, Lee?
No, I don't have any questions, but that's great because we do have viewers that are not that are in different states. So if
Yeah.
something could be put together and they're able to get to that um, Zoom or whatever, however you have it, that would just be wonderful. I'm learning so much as we go along this journey,
Yeah.
and I thank you,
Yeah.
ladies, for
It's
being
a
with us
learning
tonight,
journey.
educating me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hmm.
yeah.
Yes.
Welcome. If they'd
Yeah.
like to contact me, they can get a group together, or if they want to contact me, nancydcharles@gmail.com. We can put a class together during the summer, even if anyone's interested. I'd be happy to do that. Or they can reach me through you. I give them information.
Thank you. It's just so powerful. And I thank you, Nancy. I thank you, Wanda. You ladies came and gave up your Monday evening. And I just say thank you so much. Everybody, we thank you for joining us tonight and a happy belated Mother's Day to all of you. Keep the faith, keep going strong. We're here to support you. We appreciate you. And just reach out to us. Look at our website. We have a sip and paint coming up. We have a golf tournament coming up. So please come out and support us, our lessons learned. And you know what? We just thank you. And we're here for you. I'm on the journey with you. I'm 14 years in and I'm on the journey, and don't give up. I'm not tired yet. We got to keep going. Some days
That's
are
right.
hard, but we cannot give up. We have to keep
That's
pressing
right.
forward. We got to run that good race for our loved ones. So, again, any
Yeah.
closing remarks, Wanda or Nancy?
I don't
Okay.
have any.
I'll say
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it so much to share what we do and what we love doing is
Yeah.
helping people.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for your interest. Thank you for your audience, and hopefully this short, little conversation help them to gain some sort of practices. I'm grateful for that because it's a really powerful tool, as you've mentioned several times.
Yeah. It's just so the more I
Mhm.
learn about it, the more I'm like, we gotta have this. This is, and I love how you
Yeah.
guys come out in number for support as well. I remember our first event, Florida Restorative Justice was right
Mhm.
there. We're talking about 6:30 in the morning, Dan and Wanda right
Right.
there. Nancy, you came out and walked the 2 miles. This is what a community building activity is all about. So we thank
Yeah.
you. We thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions, you guys can DM us. You can put it on there. We just thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Have a good evening.